I'm Keenan Thomas, the founder of Omega. In this episode of the Omega Podcast, we have a special conversation about the Metaverse in retail, international manufacturing for clothing brands, and the competitive landscape for luxury fashion brands. Let's get right into the conversation. Welcome to the Omega Expert Chat with Brandon Snower, founder of Alfré, an apparel and fashion company based in New York. Recently featured in GQ, Robb Report, and many others, Alfré is a New York-based modern heritage brand bringing a new vibe and aesthetic to today's modern menswear. Alfré combines traditional craftsmanship with innovative designs, a fun attitude, and a playful elegance to the old school classic. Brandon, it's great to have you on the podcast.
How's it going, Keenan? It's great to be here. Thanks for chatting with me.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to learning more and diving deep into your creation. What inspired you to start Alfré?
It was really just trying to see what was out there that I really thought a lot of men in this generation, a lot of guys out there would really enjoy from a design perspective, a quality perspective, and just being very authentic and fun and building this really awesome community that guys can be a part of, that I really didn't think existed in a way that it should in classic menswear, specifically in this, sophisticated, elegant kind of realm of menswear.
I think as many of our viewers or listeners will be able to recognize when they go on your site is that you have such an elegant design. Everything is so old school meets new school, and it's just this nice hybrid of the two. And I'm just a fan of it, truly a fan. I know in one of your recent videos on YouTube, when you recently launched, you had provided some info that you were doing a partnership with a kind of a supplier within Europe. What was the process in deciding suppliers for your products? Because there's many different suppliers around the globe that you could have partnered with for your brand, but why specifically Portugal?
No, that's a good question. When I was, I came from banking and finance prior, so I didn't really have much knowledge or experience just in the realm of sourcing and finding people and partners that could really make clothing in general. But, I did a lot of research online, and I looked at a lot of brands that I admired in New York that made, great quality materials and garments, and a lot of them were producing in Portugal. So that kind of gave me a hint of, okay, maybe I should focus on Portugal as a place where I could potentially make our clothing. And that process was really just trial and error of, trying to find them online, speaking to people, networking with people in the industry, to give me some sort of sense of what do I look for, what do I ask. That I wasn't amazing at understanding what I should ask for and how I should communicate with them. But one email you learn, two emails you learn, three, and then at a certain point you kind of understand how it's supposed to be done. And that's kind of how I went about it. And so once I really got comfortable with that and wanted to actually start making the clothes, for me it's really important to meet everyone that I work with, or at least I try to, because it's such a big deal and it's such an important relationship to have, where I flew out there, I knocked on 1 million doors when I was in Portugal, just meeting factories, seeing how they operate, understanding, if they actually care about the garments, what do they look for in, their clients, and how they approach manufacturing and quality control and everything. And there's one that really, really stood out to me, and they just happen to be, the oldest shirt maker in Portugal. They've been in business, a mom and pop shop, for 75 years. And I really felt comfortable with them, and they really felt comfortable with me, just in terms of the communication and style and what we actually cared about growing and scaling the company. So that's where we went with, and it's just meeting new suppliers, making new fabrics and garments, and it's just awesome meeting people uh, in Portugal, I guess.
Yeah, and I think as you shared, being able to be optimistic enough to go knock on those doors to make those connections and meet the right people, because I know from a lot of entrepreneurs that I've spoken to in the past, they're very timid sometimes. They're very hesitant to take those risks because they're afraid of failure or whatever the case is. But I think it's very unique how you shared that going to the different manufacturers, you basically had a criteria in place that you were looking for relationships. Basically, you wanted to see the factories. Some people might make a decision like that and say, oh, I trust so and so, what they had shared with me about this manufacturing plant, but now that I'm here, I can be able to see how are the conditions working, what are the maybe some of the sustainability efforts that they might have, some of those areas that people, maybe some of your recent customers really care about when it comes to purchasing your product. So I think that that's something that a lot of people don't take the necessary time to do, especially in that process. The type of garments and sort of that creative process, when you're going through that, design phase and implementation, what do you do to unlock your creativity when it comes to getting a new product for your brand, developing maybe a new color scheme? Can you sort of share with our listeners what that process is like for you?
Yeah, and there's not really one answer. I think it's a very difficult question to ask just because there's so many things that you can get inspired from. I look at movies, I see what they're wearing, and that's why I was very inspired by our first collection of, this contrast white collar button downs. That was the very like Gordon Gekko Wall Street esque style and look in the 80s that I just loved. And I just thought it was so sleek and sophisticated when I was growing up, and kind of cherish that aesthetic. But it's that inspiration of, okay, how can we take different things and implement it in a way that is more modern, is more kind of relevant to what we want to create as a brand, and what we want our community to wear, to be honest. More casual, more fun, less stuffy, I feel like. And I think that's how we approach a lot of the design is, okay, how can we take different colors and different things that are amazing, but do it in a way that speaks to our language and our kind of aesthetic as this, young modern menswear brand.
Yeah. What would be an ideal customer for you? Are you trying to target investment bankers specifically based upon your experiences? Are you looking to, share with people that are in different sectors, different fields? What would be an
Yeah.
ideal customer for you?
Yeah, I think, it's not just one person, one community. I think what we're trying to build is this kind of lifestyle and aesthetic that people can aspire to be, or they might potentially already have. That's why we created a limited edition martini collection. Our custom glasses, coasters. We partnered with a really, really cool Nigerian illustrator in Africa to make an awesome print for us. So it's really just expanding, I think, the culture of what I think, menswear is about. Art, uh, style, community, movies, culture, music. I think there's so many different facets of menswear that we can explore and we want to, so we can pick apart and kind of just build this holistic community of people that I think really embrace a lot of what we want to have in our brand.
Yeah, and I think that that's sort of the secret sauce for the success that you've had thus far in your journey. And it's so incredible to watch from the outside because you can just see just the creativity, the design sequences, the videos. It just all comes together in such a very unique and very distinctive way that I haven't seen any other brand to date really take the advantage of doing. So kudos to you, truly. And I know throughout the journey, it's obviously not easy, but we understand that through hard work and it does pay off. But throughout your journey thus far with Les Alfré, what challenges do you face, as an entrepreneur, and how have you been able to overcome them?
Yeah, I think with a lot of entrepreneurs, especially me, you come to realize that there's a lot of uncertainty, but and I think it's good to have that, but it's also, really challenging at times to try to understand what comes next, how to grow, how to create, this really, really awesome community that we're trying to build, um, through selling product, through having this emotion and kind of relationship with people that interact and engage with our brand. So, there's a lot that comes with, okay, how do I think about marketing this new product? What new product should we have? How much should we get? How much money is that going to require us to have? What are the costs of doing business? There's a lot of things that, it in the back end of just having a business, it's really challenging kind of balancing decisions from a perspective, okay, this is going to make us grow, be bigger, be better, iterate, optimize, so we can actually grow, be bigger, be better, iterate, optimize, so we can actually have this awesome, great community.
The steps that you're taking necessarily with developing that community, really doing those surveys, collecting that data from your customers, maybe prospective customers, see where's the market trends going, what are people looking to purchase, because we all know that there's a lot of competition in both of our fields, right? That we have to understand where are the trends going. And as we go into the Christmas season, which people are thinking of, what do I purchase for my husband? What do I purchase for my sons for them to get an upgrade for maybe their apparel for the new year? They're thinking, okay, is Les Alfré going to be that brand, which it is, for them to invest into and to be able to kind of stand out from the crowd. And I think what you're doing with your team and, the distinctiveness that you're doing with all of your products, I think that that's something that a lot of people today don't take into consideration. Walk into one of their stores, but what's standing out, right? And what's really going to drive you back, go, over and over again.
Right. And that's something that I think is really important to always improve and understand how you can implement certain things that really what the customer and community wants, right? So for example, when we launched, or we were $148, and it was really important to us to get it under $100 for our core line of products, with maintaining the same quality, the same European craftsmanship, fabrics, materials, everything is the exact same. But that's why I go out to Portugal. That's why, you have to have this really great relationship with people and build that trust to say, okay, this is what we want to do. This is what our customer is telling us, right? Like, we're observing the market, we're observing, the people's decision making and buying behaviors, and saying, okay, how can we create so much value for our members that is extremely differentiated towards other brands. So now our shirts are $98 because we were able to negotiate and work with all of our suppliers. We work with them directly, so it's easier, and we don't have to pay added costs to get that below a threshold that I really think is affordable and accessible to a lot of people. And plus it's really high quality European craftsmanship, which is, you look at a lot of other menswear brands, it's a really hard feat. And we were able to do it in 6 to 8 months, which is super exciting. But like, going back to your point, like, we actually listen to our customers, and want to improve with them as we grow.
I'm telling you, people do not take that time, especially at the launch of their business. They're so focused on me, me, me. What do I want to bring to the table, and not really assessing the needs of, who are you selling these products to? What are their needs, and how can you align that with perhaps your mission or your vision? And on that note, what would be your vision for Les Alfré in the new year, or maybe in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, in the next year or so, we're just going to continue to build out our community, build out our product line. We have some really cool collaborations coming up early next year. So that's really exciting. We want to create, like I said, this brand that extends beyond fashion. So, we had a collaboration with Trust Fund Terry. They're a huge finance meme Instagram account that we did an actual limited edition product that a lot of people loved, and it sold really, really well. But we're going to continue to do that with brands, partners, communities that are in line with, I think, our broader vision of menswear and what it could be, and I think should be in the modern age. And that's will always be the case, but 5 years, it's tough to say, but hopefully we can really be a disrupting and relevant force in menswear, where people actually look at us as one of the go-to classic menswear brands in this generation.
One of the questions that I wanted to touch upon as well is, we're living in an age of innovation, right? With technology being a key disruptor, there's so many companies leveraging artificial intelligence, different means in order to accelerate their growth. But when it comes to apparel and fashion, at an all-time high, how do you sort of see innovation, perhaps technological advancement, perhaps impacting your business or assisting your business growth?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting industries and things that have been popping up, and I feel like they're still kind of in beta because they, with Meta and all of these new realms of what can be, like you're seeing the virtual storefront that Facebook is doing, and other brands are kind of being a part of, the bigger brands obviously that can actually do that sort of thing. But I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of just new softwares and new technologies that are making it a lot easier for the customer experience. So for example, from my standpoint, innovation isn't just technology. It's okay, we're creating insane quality products at a price point that honestly not many other menswear, if any, are actually implementing and executing. That to me is innovating, creating a brand and community that has a different kind of aesthetic and marketing and a vibe about them. That's innovation. So but to go back to your point, there's always going to be technology, and I think it's just always good to see what's coming and just think about that, even though we don't necessarily have the means or resources to do it like bigger brands do. But it's cool to see.
No, I mean, it's a starting point, and even though right now you guys aren't there to invest into it hypothetically, but in the near future, you guys could be a disruptor in
Yeah,
regards to implementing that, and finding those new ways. And what you shared earlier, a lot of these companies are investing into it as a beta. Like, they don't know if it's going to have an ROI on their initial investments. They're just investing to see what the market is. And to be frank, it comes down to understanding your customer base. If your customer base is not investing into your products that way, why invest into it, right?
right.
But if they're leading into that and they're saying, hey, I'm purchasing, this sales margin for, this quarter, $100,000+ based upon the Meta retail sector,
Right.
then okay, I can see there being an input there. But if there's not a means to it, then I wouldn't waste your time. That's just me, just
Yeah, no, I
being
mean,
quite
it's
frank.
right. You always have to assess like everything, right? Like who your customer is, where do they shop, what platforms do they use, how do they think about purchasing, and create a journey for them that is actually relevant to their actions. So that doesn't necessarily, and I think a lot of brands, not necessarily miss the ball, but they overthink it where, we have to be in all spaces, right? Like we have to be on TikTok, we have to be on like everything, right? Pinterest, all these things. If your customer is only on Instagram, just do Instagram, right? Like you don't
Right.
have to be worried about what other companies are doing, what the buzz is on, oh, you can post a TikTok reel and it could go viral. Yeah, it could, but try it out, see it, but don't spend and allocate all your time and resources if exactly where and how and why your members are shopping at certain places.
Yeah, understanding that customer journey is critical to the success of the business. Are there any final input that you want to give our listeners about Les Alfré?
Um, I think, just what we're trying to create is really authentic to what, I think a modern guy and a modern gentleman should be a part of. I think we're super fun and creative in a way that speaks to something that's very different out there about menswear, and I think that's where we want to be, and that's who we are as just a brand and a community. And if you have a chance to check us out or follow us on Instagram, that'd be awesome.
Well, thank you, Brandon, for being on the Omega Expert Chat.
Thanks, Keenan. Appreciate you having me.